Steelers fans, back again. Another fan reaction. This QB carousel that we are in as Pittsburgh Steelers fans is got me going crazy, trying to figure out all the different possibilities or who our starting quarterback is going to be. For that, for that matter, who our backup quarterback is going to be and who our third string quarterback is going to be. And free agency, after the big changes that were promised in Mike Tomlin's end of the year press conference, haven't gone quite as I expected. It's like we're nickeling and diming our way again through free agency. I thought that we were going to go out and get a defensive tackle that was going to upgrade our defensive line, maybe move Keanu Benton out to the defensive end position and get a true nose tackle in there. I thought maybe we were going to go after Javon Hargrave, even though he got $15 million a year, which coming off a pectoral injury in age 42, age 32, I don't know if we could afford to pay him $15 million a year at age 32. And then, there were a couple of other guys that I knew were out of our price range. Milton Miller. I thought we were going to pick up a premier cornerback, and we end up getting Darius Slay, but he's 34 years old. I don't know if this is another Patrick Peterson signing, even though I did like what Pat Pete did. I just thought that he was put in a role where we shouldn't have been relying on him to be Pat Pete of old. However, now we've lost out on Justin Fields. Russell Wilson is visiting the Browns and the Giants. And so, it's obvious that the Steelers don't really, Russell Wilson is not their first, second, or third choice. I don't ever think that they really had a real interest in Sam Darnold. And people are talking about Sam Darnold like he is a premier quarterback, but he's had one good season. And he fell off during that one season. So now we're waiting on a decision from Aaron Rodgers, and there's been so many conflicting reports that have been going back and forth in the last couple of days, whether or not it was Rodgers, whether or not it was Wilson, whether or not it was Justin Fields up until free agency tampering period open, and he went to the Jets for $30 million guaranteed, or whether or not the Steelers were going to try to talk him out of that in between that period. One thing that I do know for sure is this: the Steelers are cheap, very cheap. And I understand that it gives them cap flexibility and doesn't back them into the corner in the preceding years. After they initially sign a contract, they only guarantee money in the first year, which I think is just a little outdated depending on who you're going after. I think that we need to do a better job of trying to reel these free agents in. There's no point of going after free agents and you know what to expect when you get to the bargaining table. If you're going to go after a free agent that's prominent, you should expect that you're going to have to guarantee him money beyond the first year, even if it's a partial guarantee. And it doesn't seem like the Steelers are really willing to do that. So now we're waiting on Aaron Rodgers, and Mike Florio of NBC Sports was stating that, Rodgers would be getting $45 million a year. And it was, 2 years, $90 million? And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm not against having Aaron Rodgers come in as long as it's expected that, we're going to draft a quarterback behind him or have a contingency plan in place. I don't have a problem with Aaron Rodgers. I personally think Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson. He may not be able to elude the rush as well as Russell Wilson, which is not saying anything major, but he certainly can get rid of the ball quicker, throw the ball across the middle faster, um, and he can move the chains. That's another problem that I had, is that we just this offense didn't move the chains, and I just don't see Russ getting any better. You can say, well, Aaron Rodgers 42 years old, but up until he was 39 years old, he was a league MVP. Russell's 36, 37 now, and is going downhill, and he's short, and he can no longer move the way he used to move. And so these are things that are against Aaron Rodgers, against Russell Wilson, which is one of the reasons why I think that the Steelers are leaning towards Aaron Rodgers, because what we're basing Aaron Rodgers off of is someone who was returning from an Achilles injury that was away from football for an entire year, and that it's an injury known that you don't completely regain full motion or get back into it over a year period's time after the injury, after returning from the injury. So it takes a while to even just get your feeling back, to maybe see the game the way he was seeing it before, to get familiarized with new players. It was a lot of different circumstances that could have led to the way he was playing, because if you watch how he performed, I mean, overall he threw for 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and close to 400 yards. And he did most of his damage in the second year. He played pretty well in the second year. And even with Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, the Jets still didn't have a good offensive scheme, and their defense didn't play as well as they should. So overall, I know he went through training camp the year before with the Jets, but he got hurt after like 4 plays in the first game. And then he comes back after a year off with new players in a new scheme. Devontae Adams didn't happen until the 5th or 6th week of the season, even maybe the 7th week of the season. So they had to get reacclimated. And then you had to infuse him into the passing game. Then Alan Lazard got hurt. And so there was a lot of things that transpired that we didn't necessarily see. And by the time they began to gel, it was too late. And so, you have to take into account that Aaron Rodgers played well last year. Now, he's not the MVP Aaron Rodgers. However, he's still a good quarterback, and he's a better quarterback than Russell Wilson. Moonball or not. You can't tell me that Aaron Rodgers can't throw the deep ball. You can't tell me that he can't give George Pickett and DK Metcalf opportunities to come down with the football or put them in position to take a chance with the 50-50 balls just because he doesn't throw a moonball. He has a beautiful spiral. He still has a strong arm. He's an accurate quarterback. He's a better quarterback than Russell Wilson. So my biggest problem is that the Steelers are putting all their eggs in one basket. Another thing too that I've been listening to a lot of shows. I listen to, shout out to DK Sports, shout out to Steelers Depot and the Terrible Podcast, shout out to Chris Carter, and I kind of listen to Deke and Moats, and I'm just listening to a lot of the takes that I get. All Steelers Sports, shout out to them. And Noah Straxine, sorry if I mispronounced his name, but this whole Steelers putting all their eggs in one basket, just waiting for Aaron Rodgers to make a decision while he holds the Pittsburgh Steelers hostage. I think that the Steelers backed themselves into a corner because they couldn't lock up Justin Fields. It's obvious that they don't want Russell Wilson back, and they just waited too long. But if they don't allow Aaron Rodgers to hold them hostage, it's already been reported that they contacted Mason Rudolph. Now, a lot of people don't like Mason Rudolph. I like Mason Rudolph. I think that he's a serviceable quarterback. I think that He can win games with the Steelers, especially if they put the weapons around him uh, and surround him with just ridiculous talent, which they're already on the road to. Now we have DK Metcalf, George Pickens, and Calvin Austin. With Russell Wilson, who's a talented rookie, we have yet to see him, but we know what he did in college, and he garnered enough production and displayed enough talents to invest a third-round pick in him. Another thing, too, is with Mason Rudolph, George Pickens flourished under Mason Rudolph. He didn't play as well with any other quarterback that the Steelers put behind center as well as he played with Mason Rudolph. And that includes Mitch Trubisky as well. So the thing is that if they can get Mason Rudolph in here and, slate him as being the backup quarterback, regardless of what Aaron Rodgers does, that solidifies that wide receiver room. If you have to bring back Russell Wilson, then you have to go through the problems of the power struggle, the wanting to do things that his complete way. And Aaron Rodgers is somewhat the same way. You're going to have to make some type of changes to quarterbacks that have that great of a resume, who understand the game the way they do. But don't allow Aaron Rodgers to hold you hostage. I just think that the Steelers have put themselves in a position where it looks like it's just Aaron Rodgers or bust, and I understand that they've been interested in Jackson Dart and the quarterback, the 26-year-old quarterback, Shuck, that they've been interested in him as well. But those quarterbacks shouldn't be expected to come in and start. And those quarterbacks shouldn't be the fallback plan when you started out building so much talent. If you can get a guy like Mason Rudolph, who has shown that he can play, given the opportunity, because he did lead us through the last 3 games. We put up more points in those last 3 games than we had at any point in the last 3 seasons. And then he didn't falter when he got behind in the playoff game against Buffalo. He still played well. It's just the defense couldn't stop Buffalo at all. So if we are able to maybe shore up this defense, because I thought that we were going to get one of these top 4 free agent cornerbacks to come in and play. And I'm not saying that Darius Slay has nothing left. I'm just saying, how much can you expect out of a 34-year-old cornerback? Also, we have done nothing as far as depth or starting personnel concerned as far as the defensive line is concerned. We've let go of Ogunjobi. And so we're going to rely on Loudermilk and Montavious Adams. And we have D'Alvin Leal, but he's not proven. So, we're going to draft a defensive tackle at number 1 and expect him to just come in and perform. I think that's a little bit short-sighted for us to do something of that nature. And so I'm just not really understanding the Steelers' plan. Of course, I'm not inside the building. I don't have the qualifications that any of those gentlemen have. But at the same time, just from the outside looking in, I'm not really understanding what they're doing. And when they reached out to Mason Rudolph, what was discussed? Because he still hasn't been signed, but they act as if they don't need other quarterbacks. Skylar Thompson was brought in on a futures quarterback. So just like someone else said, you have to consider that the Steelers don't have a quarterback on the roster. They don't have a quarterback signed to the roster. Skylar Thompson is not even going to be your number 3 quarterback. He's a camp arm. So, what are we doing? My question is, what's next? Because these little signings, Kenneth Gainwell, that's okay. We've signed a 3rd-string running back. We've signed a nickel corner to battle with Beanie Bishop for the slot position. We've signed a 34-year-old outside corner. And I guess we're higher on Corey Trice, but Corey Trice hasn't shown us much either. Only thing that he shows us is that he continually is susceptible to injuries. And he was that way in college. So unless he gets some Wolverine serum to shore up the bones in his body, he's going to continue to have problems. So I'm just not really understanding what we're going. I'm hoping that an Aaron Rodgers decision comes soon, or if he's somewhere laying in the sun or in a cave in the dark. I'm not speaking to anybody, meditating on a moon rock. Hey, that's his prerogative, but the Steelers shouldn't allow themselves to be held hostage while he's making the decision whether or not he's going to play for the Steelers or the Giants or even the Minnesota Vikings, which I don't understand that decision at all as far as the Vikings concerned. Because if one of the main reasons that you let Sam Darnold walk is because you have J.J. McCarthy coming in the wings. If you were going to go get a 41-year-old quarterback after what Sam Darnold did in your offense last year, you might as well have just signed Sam Darnold to a 2-year contract. You could have gave him 2 years, and you could have gave him the money that Seattle gave him and kept him there with the weapons that he has. He has Jordan Addison and Jay Jetta. So what's the problem? I don't understand the problem. Adequate run game, good offensive line, extremely strong defense. And so why would you bring Aaron Rodgers into that situation unnecessarily? He's going to completely change the nature of that locker room. And for me, his best option is Pittsburgh, unless he's just not really caring about winning. We just care about the Giants. And then I think what the biggest thing to me that the oxymoron that could happen is the fact that maybe Rodgers would just say, okay, I'm going to retire. And then he just had all these people waiting all this time, as he retires. Whatever team that he's going to, he should take in consideration that the longer he takes to make his decision, the harder it is for them to attract free agents, to improve the roster, to understand what their salary cap is going to look like, to make their draft plans, because he's such an important piece of what they have to do moving forward for this particular year. And, I just don't think that the Steelers should really just be sitting around waiting for him to make his decision. But, hey, what do I know? This is just my position on it, just giving you my opinion. Take care. Be safe.